Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel, and in this video I'll be doing a sound test between these two Sony phones. On the left hand side you got the slightly older flagship phone from Sony, the Sony Xperia 5. This is white in color. I also covered this on my channel, and those of you who follow me, you must have seen several videos from last year and this year as well. Now this phone has got a typical traditional setup. It's got a bottom firing speaker, as you can see, and then you got the earpiece acting as the second speaker. This is the most conventional and the traditional setup which lots of manufacturers have been using over the last few years. However, on your right hand side you got the very latest flagship from Sony, the Sony Xperia 5 Mark II, and in this phone Sony have taken a slightly different approach. Both the speakers are now front facing, which was a trend several years ago. Not many manufacturers are now following that, but I was a fan of that back from HTC days. So you've got one speaker on the right hand side. You can see the small grill here. This is the speaker on the right hand side, and on the left hand side you got the earpiece, which is also acting as the second speaker. So it will be very interesting to see how these two phones come out when it comes to sound in terms of quality and also loudness. Now there will be two parts to this video. In the first half of the video we will play this track back and forth a few times to see which phone sounds better and louder. However, in the second half of the video I'll be using another phone. This is the Xiaomi Mi 10T Lite, and I will be using the sound app to measure the amount of sound coming from both the phones. So this is the sound meter app. I'll be using this to see how much sound is coming from both the phones, and based on that we will find out which phone sounds louder, and also has Sony shown any improvement from Xperia 5 moving on to Xperia 5 Mark II. So without any further delay, let's quickly get started.
Story of our lives, the best of times, through color
Well, that was very close. As you could tell, both phones sound fantastic. And despite the Xperia 5 having a rather old setup, or I would say rather the new setup, in which there's a bottom firing speaker, it still performs really well. But from my understanding, and please don't quote me on this is just casual testing to give you guys an idea. But from my understanding, what I can hear, at least to my ears, I think the Xperia 5 has got a bit more bass to it. It's got a bit more solid sound coming out from it, and it could potentially be that speaker like I spoke to you about. It's got the front facing speakers, and that slight difference might have played some role in the sound getting out to our ears. But they both sound fantastic. It's a very close match. But like I said, I feel like as if the Xperia 5 Mark II has got a bit more bass to it. The pitch on the Xperia 5 might be higher still. It does sound a bit tinny, whereas this sounds a bit more heavier, a bit more bass oriented. So it seems to our ears that there is some improvement on the Xperia 5 Mark II. Now let's get to the other part of our video and let's measure the sound coming out from both the phones and see how it goes.
Waste another day, eyes on my display. You say we need a change and I feel that you mean it. You mean it. But you're so right, we're losing track of time. Buying things online and it's not like we need them. We don't need them. So can we just slow down? The only thing I'll do is lay here next to you. We need to slow waste another day, eyes on my display. You say we need a change and I feel that you mean it. You mean it. But you're so right, we're losing track of time. Buying things online and it's not like we need them. We don't need them. So can we just slow down? The only thing I'll do is lay here next to you. We need to slow down. Embrace the love we found. For you and I were safe and sound.
Okay, so that was very close and very interesting. Obviously, like we saw in the first half of the video, they are pretty much neck to neck, but obviously the sound meter is able to give us a bit more accurate reading. Now this was a screenshot I took first of all from the Sony Xperia 5, and you can tell it went up to maximum of 78 decibels, whereas it was averaging around 72.1 decibels. That means it was fairly loud, and minimum of 40. We wouldn't consider minimum because obviously it wasn't as quiet when it started off with, and the app does not allow you to reset and go to 0. The app that I've got here is not the full pro version. Whereas you go on to the Sony Xperia 5 Mark II, and guys, you can tell straight away that the average is around 74.9, which is definitely higher than what it was on the Xperia 5. So the Mark II has got a bit of improvement on that. And also it went all the way up to 79 max again, which was, even though just 1 decibel higher, but 1 decibel in real world does make a significant difference, especially when you're watching a YouTube video or you're playing back your own recorded videos or watching films. So as you can tell, long story short, Xperia 5 Mark II is the winner. Sony has put some improvement by putting both speakers at the front. It has made some difference. Obviously, there are some improvements to sound. You can see that the phone has got a bit more bass to it. It's slightly bit louder than the Xperia 5, but overall, definitely an improvement and a winner as opposed to the Sony Xperia 5. So guys, that's pretty much from me. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. Any questions about these two phones, anything else, I've got the Xiaomi Mi 10T Lite as well. I'll be releasing some battery life videos on this and the rest. Anything else, guys, please do ask me in the comment section. And like always, please subscribe as it helps. And I shall see you in the next video.